is, running it down on these niggas.
Sex, drugs, money, and murder, my nigga. You know how we get it, my nigga. Still be painting them bitches, my nigga. Ripping that roll and fucking your bitches. Sex, drugs, money, and murder. 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 Niggas, they never will hurt you. Niggas, they never will hurt you. Sex, drugs, money, and murder. Sex, drugs, money, and murder.
Got the tracks right, understand how to get that. Ran down on them niggas with a flip back, new and
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Bulletz Gotti. You already know what it is. You know, I had to do one. I had to do a video this time, man, to hit y'all, bust y'all in the head with one. So this video right now is going to be about Jay-Z. And I really want to talk about Hov because I never really, you know, got to talk about Hov on my first channel or my second channel. I was doing 2 videos, and I want to really be honest in this video, like how I feel. In my opinion, I think Jay-Z is a dope, can I say lyricist? He could put words together very I'll say magnificent. He know how to put them double entendres. He got the metaphors, them similes. I give him that. And them, you know, when you talk about those, like them syllables, like dude can hit you with them syllables. But my thing with Jay-Z, in my opinion, I feel like he's overrated. And I was listening to Trick Daddy, what he was saying about Beyonce and Jay-Z, and you know, Beyonce is not a bad singer. She got good music. She not horrible like Rihanna. Rihanna's trash. And there's a couple other female artists that you could say is like, But Beyonce is not a bad. Now I wouldn't put her in the category of a Mariah or a Mary, you know what I'm saying, or Whitney. But she got a good voice. So I wouldn't, you know, but I did agree with him when it came to the Jay-Z thing. I feel like that King of New York title, that him being the GOAT, I feel like they gave him, that New Yorkers gave him that title when we all know that Jay-Z did not start the breakout to basically become his own until 2001. You know, when he did Blueprint, that's what solidified his legacy. You know, he did Volume 1, he did Volume 2, Volume 3, Dynasty, you know, Reasonable Doubt. Like, if you really look at it, you know, today was the anniversary for Reasonable Doubt, the 25th anniversary. When that album first came out, it was not considered a classic in 96. It wasn't. You know, the Fugees, Tupac, and Nas dominated 1996. And then you could put Outkast and Ghostface Killer, but those 3 dominated 1996. Okay? They dominated 1996. Jay-Z wasn't in the conversation in 1996. And he really wasn't in the conversation in 97. When they said the Biggie, Jay-Z, and Nas, that he wasn't in that conversation. You know, you got to remember, you had Nas, you had Prodigy, you had Busta, you had Mase. You know, this is after Biggie and Pac died. So when Biggie and Pac was alive, Jay-Z wasn't even in the conversation. So when Biggie and Pac died, he wasn't in the conversation then. You know, you had Big Pun. You had a lot of good rappers in New York, especially. You had LL that was still killing things. So, and Method Man and Redman. So Jay-Z really wasn't in the conversation. Now, you know, when 2001 came and he went in and he got next to Kanye and Bink, and I mean, Just Blaze, No ID in them, they gave Jay-Z his own his sound. That's why when you listen to the later albums, he had a different sound than he had when he did Volume 1, Reasonable Doubt, Volume 2, Volume 3. If you listen to Volume 1, that was the Bad Boy. That was the Bad Boy Mase, Puff, Biggie sound. You know, that was their sound on Volume 1. Volume 2 was the DMX sound. Volume 3 was, he was still running with that Rough Rider sound, Volume 3. Dynasty, he taken from the Philly dudes. A lot of people don't give the Philly cats they credit, but he took a lot from the Philly dudes. You know, if you go back, like, Non-Brigade, shout out to my big brother, George Macon, because he was playing some classic Non-Brigade music, right? And I don't forgot that Jay-Z stole a record, the All I Need record. And basically when he stole that record, he went on and put that on Blueprint. He, you know, Jay-Z, Jay-Z, his whole career, he was taking music from other artists, you know what I'm saying, and stealing their styles, you know, and like, you know, you gotta remember, he stole from Jaz-O, he stole from Kane, he stole from, you know, Beanie Siegel, you know, and he stole from DMX, you know, he stole from Mase and them, you know, he stole from Big L, you know, he stole a lot, he copied a lot of niggas' styles and stole from them. He took a lot of Biggie balls. Let's keep it real. He took a lot of Biggie balls. You know what I'm saying? A lot of his balls. You know, and not only Biggie balls, but he took other rappers' balls. Slick Rick, you know, you name them, all they balls. Snoop, all of them. Nas, he took a lot of niggas' balls. You know what I'm saying? Like he copied Nas' whole staff. You know what I'm saying? And not only that, if you even look at Reasonable Doubt, like niggas always like to say, yo, Reasonable Doubt was the Hustlers album. But if you really listen to Reasonable Doubt and you really look at that album, right? And then you look at before he did Reasonable Doubt, right? In 9-5, because he recorded the album 9-4, 9-5, 9-6, right? In the good half of 9-6, he was done with the album, but 9-5, he was recorded most of the album. You really listen to that album closely, right? You listen to the album in closely, he was stealing a lot of Raekwon and AZ. He was copying that Purple tape and Do or Die. Straight up in there. He took that whole mafioso hustler Chris Style. Like if you listen, the nigga Jay was talking about Chris Style. Ray and them was talking about Chris Style on the intro of Purple tape. So Jay been copying from niggas. And in my opinion, I feel like Jay-Z's always been an overrated rapper. Now, don't get me wrong. I like the best of both worlds. You know what I'm saying? I still bump that. You know, I like Volume 1. I like, you know, Volume 2 to a certain extent. I like Dynasty. I like Blueprint 2. So, it's not, and I like American Gangster. So, I can't sit here and say, oh, I don't like the nigga Jay. But I feel like he's an overrated rapper because the way people, you know, hold him to this high regard, you know, I remember back in the days, he wasn't a nigga, the go-to nigga. You know what I'm saying? Because you got to remember, DMX was that dude. And Jay said it out of his mouth. When it came down to, like, if you go back and you look at his first album, right? And then you look at, it took him to do, his second album was a fucking flop. You know what I'm saying? The first album, Volume 1 was, he hated Volume 1. Because it wasn't received, it was poorly received by the critics. He had to go and do Streets is Watching. And by him doing Streets is Watching, then he had to go do, you know, Volume 2. And he was so inspired by the sound of DMX, and he saw DMX, how much units DMX was selling. He went on and worked with Irv and worked with Swiss. And then him getting that record from Kid Capri, who gave him that Mark 45 King beat, which was, he was on the No Way Out tour, gave him that beat. That's what made that album successful. But if it wasn't for Kid Capri, Irv Gotti, Swiss Beats, that album would have never sold the units and it would never got a Grammy. Because in my opinion, the best album that year, and who should have really got a Grammy when DMX, they didn't want to give DMX it. They should have gave it to Big Pun. Because Big Pun had a better album than that nigga. Straight up in there. You know? And like Mase, you gotta remember, Mase was that nigga. going into like 9-7, Mase was the go-to dude. Him and Nas was neck and neck. And then you had niggas like Prodigy, even though he was in Mobb Deep, he was that nigga that everybody loved around that time. Prodigy was that nigga. And then you had Busta Rhymes. And then you had Big Pun. So it was a lot of niggas in DMX. It was a lot of niggas that was killing the rap game. And then Jay-Z was in them high regards. So I think a lot of people keep missing that Jay-Z, the way they look at Jay-Z now in 2021 was not how the world was looking at him in 1996, 7, 8, 99, 2000, until, like I said, until 2001, until them towers got knocked down. That's when people started like, oh yeah, yo, Jay that dude. They started acknowledging Jay. Before them towers was knocked down, people wasn't really fucking with Jay like that. People wasn't fucking with Jay like that. And they know that. They know that. Big Pimpin', let's keep it real. And I kind of agree with Trick Daddy. Big Pimpin' was a UGK record. But the first New York artist to do a record with UGK wasn't Jay-Z. The first New York artist to do a record with UGK was 50 Cent. People don't give 50 his credit. You know what I'm saying? Like, in my opinion, I don't feel like Jay-Z influenced nobody in the game. I feel like people try to say he set trends. What trends did he set? Who did he influence? I don't see a whole bunch of rappers wanted to be like Jay. I seen a whole lot of rappers copying the mold of Tupac, X, Nas, 50, you know, niggas like that. Those like inspirational rappers. You ain't seen a lot of rappers came out and said, oh, I'm gonna be like Jay-Z. Like, everybody like to say, yo, Jay-Z my favorite rapper, but my nigga, none of these niggas ever came out on some Jay-Z type of timing. So when they say Jay my favorite rapper, and then when you listen to their music, Jay-Z and their music don't sound alike. Don't sound alike. You know what I'm saying? Jay, when he did 4 for 4, he copied what Nas did with Untitled. You know what I'm saying? He always been like a fighter of Nas and other rappers. You know what I'm saying? He not only just him just snaking other dudes, but he just been a dude that just never been, in my opinion, was the greatest of all time. I just don't look at Jay as that. I feel like he was force fed to a lot of people in hip hop. I feel like, you know, people in New York, the DJs like Flex and High 97 at the time was force feeding Jay-Z to people in New York to make them to believe that he was the king of New York and he was the second coming of what Biggie was and all that, and rocking Biggie Jesus' head and, you know, him, you know what I'm saying, and all that. But to me, like, I never looked at him as like that guy. I always thought like Brooklyn rappers, when you really like, Big was good for his time, don't get me wrong, you know, but I always looked at a nigga like AZ better than Jay. You know what I'm saying? But AZ just didn't have the right promotion and he just wasn't on the right label. But in my opinion, AZ is a better rapper and a better lyricist than Jay-Z. You know what I'm saying? I felt like Fab, if he didn't have the same, if he wasn't like Young Chris and many others, I feel like Fab could be on a Jay-Z level. I feel like, in my opinion, I feel like Fabulous is a better rapper than Jay. I feel like Fab just never got his just doing the game because he was under Clue. But say if he was under somebody else and he wasn't under Clue, I think Fab is up there with the greats. But he just was always he wasn't looked upon as that top tier guy. And I feel like Jay-Z inserted himself in the conversation. I kind of agree with what Doggy Diamonds was saying. you know what I'm saying, in the last couple videos when he was talking about Jay-Z. I feel like Jay-Z inserted himself in the conversation, which he was never the talk of the topic around that time. I feel like if you look at that time period and you look at the other rappers that was out in that time period, Jay-Z just wasn't the guy. He wasn't a go-to guy. I feel like people only mess with Jay-Z because of his affiliation, being married to Beyonce, and then his affiliation with Kanye. I feel like Jay-Z, if you look at him internationally, he's not more known than a Nas or a DMX or a 50. You know, these are international artists. You know what I'm saying? Jay-Z is looked upon, if you go overseas, as Beyonce's husband. You know, and it's like, that's what it is. You know, when he was, you know, when Kanye was going overseas and he was doing tours with, you know, people, gave Kanye his flowers because he's an international artist. Jay-Z, on the other hand, is not an international artist. He never was. He never was big overseas. You know what I'm saying? He did London. You know what I'm saying? He did London quite a few times, but, you know, I think he even did Paris, but to say internationally known, nah. He never drew like how, like I said, like how 50 or many others have drew overseas. Like they stay over there, you know. 50 in my opinion had more of an influence on the game and an impact on a lot of young rappers. If you look at it, a lot of all these young rappers will tell you 50 Cent is who they grew up on, you know. A lot of them can't tell you Jay-Z. Like a lot of dudes say, "Oh, Jay-Z," but they can't tell you a Jay-Z song. They can't tell you a Jay-Z song because they wasn't listening to Jay-Z. You know what I'm saying? I listen to Jay-Z, but I like certain albums and I like the certain songs from Jay. You know what I'm saying? You got niggas that really is Jay-Z stans, and I never understood why niggas is so much stans of Jay-Z when they know he's an overrated rapper. He's overrated. I feel like he's an overrated rapper. I feel like Beans was a better rapper than him, and I only liked the Rockefeller because of Beanie C. Because you gotta remember, I was a big, like, Rough Riders, Mase, Nas, The Lox, Big Pun, you know, Nori, all that was what I was bumping growing up. You know what I'm saying? Raekwon, the Wu and all that. You know, LL, you know, I still bump LL to this day. I love my guy. Mobb Deep, you know what I'm saying? So these dudes I grew up listening to. So when you look at Jay-Z, he copied from a lot of dudes. He bit, you know, and he sabotaged a lot of dudes' careers. He sabotaged Redman and Meth and DMX and LL, and he sabotaged a lot of dudes' careers, you know, and he took from a lot of dudes, you know what I'm saying? And it's sad, but he did, you know what I'm saying? If you go back and you listen to, like, when he went and did Kingdom Come and American Gangster and Blueprint 3, just listen, he stole Young Chris' whole flow. Stole the boy whole flow. That whole whisper flow was Young Chris. And Jay got rich and made money off of taking that boy whole style, whole swag and whole style. You know, and ended up blackballing him. But that's what happens when you fall in love with your idols. You know, he's a grimy dude, man. Like, and then when I see the whole thing that happened with Dame Dash, I wasn't surprised by that. I mean, because that whole beef came off of, you know, a nigga being in love with certain female. Now, if you watch Death of the Dynasty, that whole movie shows you what was to come with Jay and Dame. They did that movie before the breakup. And all that movie showed you was they was in love with the same girl, and that's why they started beefing. Started beefing over Aaliyah. They predicted their fate in a movie, Death of the Dynasty. And just like that, it was the Death of the Dynasty because they broke up right after that movie dropped in 2004. by 2005, the split happened and everybody had to choose sides. You know. Now this is dude that Reasonable Doubt album was Jay, Dame, and Big's album. And for him to do a dude that he would consider his mans and a dude that went hard for him, like the way he did Dame, was messed up. But that just shows you how messed up Jay is. You know, it just shows you that he didn't care that Dame was his mans. His whole business, nothing personal, you know. And that's why, you know, Jay-Z always copied his style from Scarface, because he was the Tony Montana of hip-hop. Straight like that. You know, and, you know, everybody's in the circle. Ones that's not, they not there for a reason. You know. That's what I say, man. Jay-Z's an overrated rapper, man. I can't say it no more. Salute.